These are the times when it is especially important to do a brief sitting to settle after all the anxiety about not being able to get online in the way that is normally quite easy. So I will ring the bell here in a moment uh, for us to sit for a few minutes, as we always do. When we finish the sitting and you hear the bell for the completion, rather than our sharing the robe chant, which we normally do, I'm going to take a moment to share my screen for a little bit larger, a little bit longer piece that we're going to read together. So just be aware that once again, I'm making a small change just for today. And we'll be investigating a different thing to chant in the beginning. And just so I'm confident that we're connected, if you can hear me, raise your hand. Oh, great. Yay. If you rest just some of your attention on your breath without manipulating your breath at all, just resting some of your attention there, it's a very simple enactment and embodiment of the immediacy which we invite in inquiry, to stay fresh in this moment without rehearsal, without a better breath, but attention to the breath. Coming back to the breath. Just imagine this kind of gentle attention, which would allow you to notice when I ring the bell, whether it occurs on an out breath or an in breath. That kind of attention. That kind of attention and that kind of immediacy is not a like a harsh discipline. It's a warm and gentle invitation uh, to be present uh, and to be awake and to be intimate. And curiously, when you hear the word vow, V-O-W, vow, often people don't realize that that kind of immediacy and intimacy, that kind of gentle attention, is in some ways what a vow is inviting. Um, because it's often thought as some sort of promise or some childlike thing one would do to a parent, which is not at all what a vow implies. It implies something that brings us closer to our deepest heart's desire and aligns us. And as we've, these last few sessions, really focused on the immediacy aspect, the non-rehearsal aspect, the not getting caught so much in storyline aspect of our practice, I'm going to share with you um, an old vow that was written by a Zen master called Torei Zenji um, many centuries ago. And the reason I'm inviting you to take a look at this, I'm going to share it with you in a moment, and we're going to read it together, is that it's, you know, old language translated into English, but I think that it also provides a scaffolding or a little bit of a structure to understand what we're up to here and how your own deepest longing in practice, what Suzuki Roshi would call your inmost request, can come forward. So I'm going to share my screen here for a moment, and you'll probably see my image to the side and maybe yours. But hopefully you can see that it's it's a little bit longer than just a tiny paragraph. And I'm once again going to read through it. You can read along with me, or you can just watch as I do. Here's what Torei Zenji said. And by the way, he called this his Bodhisattva vow. It's a vow that um, suggests that it invites us to practice for the benefit of all beings. And Joko Beck would use this quite a bit. I've used it in my practice discussion groups too. So here, we're just going to walk through it now. Ready? Here we go. When I, a student of the way, look at the real form of the universe, all is the never-failing manifestation of the mysterious truth of the awakened life. In any event, in any moment, and in any place, none could be other than the marvelous revelation of its glorious light. This realization made our ancestors and teachers extend tender care with respectful hearts, even to such things as birds and beasts. This realization teaches us that our daily food, drink, clothes, and protections of life are the warm flesh and blood, the merciful incarnation of the awakened one. Who can be ungrateful or not respectful, even to senseless things, not to speak of humans? Even though they may be a fool, be warm and compassionate toward them. If by any chance they should turn against us, become sworn enemies and persecute us, we should sincerely bow down with humble language in the reverent understanding that they are the merciful messengers of the awakened one, who use devices to emancipate us from blind tendencies, produced and accumulated upon ourselves by our egoistic delusion and attachment throughout countless cycles of space and time. Then on each moment's flash of our thought, there will grow a lotus flower, and on each lotus flower will be revealed perfection, unceasingly manifest as our life, just as it is, right here and right now. May we extend this mind to all beings, so that we and the world together may attain maturity in the wisdom of the awakened life. So that's quite a bit, isn't it? It's a lot of teachings in a very short version of what it means for one person to express their understanding. So I just want to spend a brief time helping us see that even when we use older scriptures like this, we can understand it in a in a different way. First, as I said earlier, this is a vow, something that one orients oneself to. And it's structured in some very interesting ways. And this vow starts with an orientation. And this is how we start an inquiry. How are we oriented? How do we position ourselves so that we can wake up? Then there are things that we realize. There's the more complicated aspect of being in relationships and with humans. And then there's the fruit of practice, which we extend to other people. First, we start by looking deeply. That's what inquiry is. And what we see is some revelation, something opens up to us. What opens? In this case, Torei Zenji says there's two aspects of this realization. The first is that we realize that we want to extend this realization to others, and it continues to teach us. So it's both expressive and receptive. We're looking deeply in inquiry, something opens, and these realizations help us offer ourselves and receive something. So we can feel deeper gratitude and a profound respect for our lives and for each other. And what does that gratitude and respect look like through these realizations? Warmth and compassion. This is the reverent understanding that sits in the midst of our relationality. There's a kind of perfection that's beyond making things right or wrong, a kind of perfection that we begin to realize as we deepen our practice in our life, not some perfection in some heavenly realm or somewhere else, but actually as our life, in our life. That, once again, is something we can extend and give back because of our Bodhisattva vow. And what do we give back and share? We share maturation and wisdom, maturing in wisdom. So these are little stepping stones of what seems like a lot. It gives us a way to understand kind of how this thing is structured, but it's a reflection of what we're up to, actually. In a retreat some years ago, one of my students said, I don't understand this. How would you say it to someone who's in grade school? How would you say it to a 6-year-old? So here's how I would say it. This vow, you know, the world's always asking you to open up and be more loving. If you look closely, you're going to begin to learn things that are way more interesting than the things you think about every day, all day long. Once you look deeply. And no matter what you love, or what you hate, or what you can imagine, everything belongs somehow. And when you truly open to this way of looking, and this way of living, you're going to learn how to care for what used to scare you. Everything, everything is a special gift being given to you every day, even if it doesn't seem like it. Just do your best to be friendly, even when it's really hard. Sometimes people are difficult or even mean. So think of them as strict teachers in a school where you can learn about these hard, confusing, or scary things. Now, when you have good friends with you in this kind of school, things begin to look really different. There's a lot more love and a lot more of everything else too, but you can do it. Just keep going. Offer your love back as best you can. And if you do, you and your friends will grow together in ways you could have never imagined. So this is a way that I thought you could speak to someone who doesn't have any idea about the Dharma. But if you do, there are things that kind of come through. I've put words on top of words here because in inquiry, what shines through as we practice together? Open your Dharma eye and see that what you seek is right in front of you. It's already there. It's always there. And what you see and what you realize will bring you to your knees with humility and lift you up with gratitude for receiving your life and giving back your life. Dharma gates actually never close, but you can refuse to step through them. So expect nothing, appreciate everything, tell the truth and love everyone. So this is, as you can imagine, worthy of a whole retreat. But I've attempted to step through it in a way that will move things around in you, not so you can remember it, not so you can understand all of it. So, what's here now? What's immediate? And what questions come forward? What things move in you? And I'm going to ask you now to raise your hand and come forward. I'm not going to call on you right now, but imagine if you feel the impulse, just raise your hand, just click the little thing and come forward, and we'll see what's here. What did this bring forward? Don't wait. Eileen.
Hey,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Um, I was touched by, I have to do something.
Yes. Change your audio.
Thank you. As we read Torei Zenji's poem, the part that touched me was about wanting this loving part of myself, always wanting this loving part of myself to come forward from the time and feeling that. And as you close with expect nothing and appreciate everything, my thought was, I'm pretty good at expecting nothing. I'm pretty,
Mhm.
no expectations. More challenged with appreciating everything and wondering if the inability, well, that if there is not a wide middle way between those two poles,
Mhm.
if that perhaps is not what is maybe required for me, for there to be a wide enough way for the love to come forward.
Well, I think so many of us, I mean, myself included, we hear that word appreciate and we automatically go to like it. How does one fully appreciate anything? To look deeply, to examine fully. You may appreciate how painful something is. You may appreciate how beautiful it is. Turn toward everything. Understand its fullness and your relationship with it.
To be present with it, to be
Yes.
present.
Present. It doesn't necessarily mean like it or be thankful for it. There are teachings that suggest that having gratitude for whatever arrives is really useful. But once again, that isn't like, oh, good, I have cancer now. Or, that's not, it's like, oh, how do I fully appreciate this shock now in my life and everyone else's life? And this is what practice prepares us for. Meeting, oh, now this, oh, now this, oh, now this, so that we don't add on top unnecessary suffering to the complexities of the world. And when they arrive, it's like a little test. Are you still clinging? Are you still running away? Are you still, oh, a little suffering, huh? Okay, there's a place. It's showing us something. It's not a failure. It's not a judgment. It's illuminating something.
And presence with that can widen the way for love.
Yes, because it provides more room for us to move, and guess what? It provides room for others to move toward us. It makes a lot of room.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you're preparing for your ceremony, I see. Coming
I am.
forward.
I
Very
am.
good.
Thank
Uh-huh.
you.
Okay.
Um,
You're on?
oh, I'm on. Hi, Flint.
Hi.
Yeah, so I was with the 6-year-old version.
Ah,
Yeah,
that's my favorite one.
that was really helpful. So just all of these reminders of, well, the first one, look closely. And it just completely calmed me down because I'm looking towards letting go of my work. And even in a part-time way, I'm gripping and fearful. And the other one was about the fear. Oh, care for what makes you frightened, and to care for
That if you practice this way and if you begin to open this, you will begin to care for what used to scare you.
exactly, for what used to scare you. That was it. Yes, yes. So I'm not to the point of it used to scaring me because it is. But it just was very, it opened me up to not feeling so bad about my upset about the change.
This is what you're appreciating,
I
is how
think.
upsetting it is.
Yes,
And it
yeah.
looked like you're leaking a little bit.
Oh yeah. Well, believe me, I was leaking a lot while the poem was going on.
Oh, what is that?
Oh, I think it's fear of. I mean, a lot of my identity is tied up with my work, and I don't know. I don't really know what's going to be there. That's the fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
This.
When I left Austin and I closed my practice and I changed where I'm living and lived in a different, that was the hardest thing. Is who am I if I'm not all of this?
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I have to, a story that many people have heard, but you might not have, is the year that I retired my psychology license, after all the work that went into it, and all the years, and all the CEUs, and all the maintaining, when I realized it was time to let it go and to free myself from all the constraints that had to. I was talking to my partner, Aaron, because he's been with me this whole time. And I was going on and on as I do, processing. And when I finished, he said, "Will it make any difference practically?" I said, "No." And then he said, "Honey, it's been really good to you."
Thank you.
And
Thank
that was the practice of deep appreciation that he gave me back, simply and directly, like he does, very simply. It's been really good to you. And then you can start feeling the deep, deep gratitude, which is part of the grief, but helps us keep our heart open. And I'll be with you through it.
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
It's always nice to live with a great teacher. Hi, Becky.
Hi, Flint. Well, I think that all of it spoke a whole lot to my almost 9-year dance with cancer, in a way that has really helped me see some of the progressions of the vastness of the robe of liberation, um, through many different things since I've found my practice
Yes.
with you all, because I had made the step in terms of appreciation for the cancer, in terms of clarifying what it is that I have wanted all of my life and have worked toward and been with, and that my whole movement toward dying is, I want it to be consistent with what that was, but I couldn't just do it in my logical head.
Right.
I tried really hard and it was insufficient to the things I was running into. And so I'm so grateful that you came on Zoom. And it has the many stages that I've grown in about what that appreciation is, both for what it is that I value in life anyway, as well as for the cancer as a kind of opportunity that I hadn't even realized I needed, And I've always had a little trouble with people who sort of go, oh, I'm so glad that I have this opportunity past my great big heart attack or whatever it was that they have, to finally see what's important to me in life. But I think for all I really felt, okay, that's silly. We should just be doing that all the time, right?
That's what practice is for.
But I hadn't realized how much I was missing, how much more there is beyond what I'd already been living with the great joy for it. But there's so much more. And the whole experience of working with pain is utterly riveting in terms of the amazement of the vastness of liberation.
Yes.
And all of the processes during that have really helped me in terms of dealing with what all's been going on in the world through these last couple of years, especially. So that I'd already sort of been saying, for instance, well, like, there's no point in being mad at Trump, for instance, right? Because he's a wounded man, right? And so there's no gain to us by feeling that kind of, but all the many ways then that the practice, the whole process of being able to say, inside of me, I know, right? And to just let myself be in that full place of the inside of me, not just in my work with my body, which I had spent lots of time with. It's like to try to really know my body from the inside out, to feel what's going on so I can make good choices, but to be able to embrace it in its whole world way. And
that's what the practice is for too.
And the part about having your friends with you through this process, because the Sangha has been that for me before I even started my meditational practice. And so, yeah, it is amazing, Flint. And I've been enjoying that strawberry that I grasped at when I came over the cliff. I've been savoring that strawberry for these many years, and there's still more of it.
Well, there's so much that you've said, because you've sort of given a beautiful Dharma talk on someone who's facing the great matter out of your heart, deep in your heart. And there's something you repeated. So I'm going to invite you to do something. It may sound silly, but I want you to say this one phrase that you said 3 times. You know how we ring the bell 3 times? We do things 3 times. I want you to do your little chant 3 times, and it's only these words. And you were using your hands. You said, there's so much more. Say that 3 times.
There is so much more. There's so much more. There's so much more.
It's an important thing for you to offer everyone here, because you kept doing this too. There's so much more. That's what the entire vow is about. Thank you. Hello, Margaret.
Hi. So it took the village to get me in here in terms of raising my hand. I couldn't figure it out, but everybody cooperated. So we can't do it alone, even that.
Well, if you show people the hand you have to raise, it's a little...
Well, no, I did, but all I got was...
No, your literal hand. What's the one with the cast on it?
Oh.
See, raise. You have a
Anyway,
broken hand, yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I'm here, and what I want is that 6-year-old version for my 79-year-old understanding. That was, in Margaret terms, the Dr. Seuss version, and it was so clear. And the part of the whole thing that is resonating with me right now is that, as you may know, I'm in the dying process with Yolanda's mother, like any minute. And I, just as we were meditating, I just had this whole vision of her just kind of ascending, I guess, out of her body. And it just came, but that used to scare me. And I know it's scaring Yolanda right now because she's 53. And I'm witnessing this great matter from such a different place. I was with her mother Sunday when she came to a tiny bit, but it was, in that process of the last breath. I mean, the morphine, all of that, hospice at home. And I am so aware of the sacredness of the moment and the process and the time. And it is this practice. I just remember when my mother died and I was 50, and it was the first dead body I had touched. And I was just shocked. I mean, I didn't know what to do. And I just remember the feeling of, I thought it was a tragedy. And now I don't feel that way about it. And so I really wanted to bring that because it was so clear in that, the way that you're able to do that and put that there for us, and for me especially, it just meant a lot to have it be so simple today.
Well, we'll attach it to the recording. Cassie can do that, I think, too, so everyone can have it.
Yeah, it meant a lot, Flint. And the way that you lead us to that place and the way you break it down for us is just so critical in this community. And then it just played out. I mean, this thing that you keep teaching us and I keep discovering about, we can't do it alone. I mean, I wish you could see this chat. It's started with Cassie and then it kind of went on down. Very sweet.
I know that I can feel the tenderness as you're watching Yolanda and also Yolanda's mother. And I was just noticing and saying to my sister, talking to her, and right now, if I look at the top of my computer screen, I say, oh, let's see, April 27th, last April 27th of 2020. I didn't know my father had 3 more days.
Right.
I mean, he's ill, things were not going well, but you don't ever know exactly. So now it's an interesting perspective. Oh, this day last year, there were only 3 more.
Well, and I had to deal with some matters around my brother's death today. And, that was one of those where I didn't know he had 5 more days.
Yeah.
And I really can join you there. But this is, anyway, you just brought it forward in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, this is a shimmering moment right now.
I appreciate it very much, and appreciate everybody that got me to you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
And I'm very much appreciating everybody being so generous to raise their hand. Hey, Chris.
Hi, Flint. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. I feel like everyone has spoken what I was going to speak. My first thought when you said, sorry, there's my screen, was how comforting this is. It's like a to do, in order this, and it just encompasses it all.
Yeah.
But since I raised my hand, Mm.
Yeah, with the immediacy, what's here now?
Well, it was Rosemary talking about leaving her license, and you talking about leaving your license. I mean, you were such an example to me, because I had held, after I had to stop practicing, I'd held on to my license for way longer than I needed to. And so I gave it up the same time you did. And so that just stirred me. And the cancer too. And I went through both of those things without the benefit of practice.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But what's the tenderness now, right this moment, as you reflect on it?
What a gift this is.
Ah.
And I'm sure there's some sadness that it felt much more alone to go through those two huge life events.
Yeah.
Without this and without community.
Yeah, you're appreciating that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of why in that last one I wrote the thing about this, if you really, really look deeply like we're talking about, then it does bring you to your knees with great humility and lifts you up with immense gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like Becky was saying, you're saying it again, there's so much more. There's so much more.
There's so much more. Yeah.
Together. If you're in this pool with
Yeah.
friends like this, in
Yeah.
this 6-year-old version.
Yes. Yeah. And that this is the ground upon which we practice. Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Yeah. And I love your saying that as I look at basically the feet of the Kuan Yins behind you, the ground on which they're standing.
Yes. The dragon upon which she's standing.
That's right. She stands on a dragon because it's a fierce thing to really, those Dharma gates are always open, but are you going to step through them? Yep.
Yeah, the word fierce means something different to me in just the last few days. Kim told me last week, we saw each other in person, which was so wonderful. And she told me that she thought I was very fierce. And that was just a wonderful use of a word for me. I really appreciated it.
And I appreciate it in you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Flint.
Hello.
Well, this vow is, I agree, very comforting with you and the Sangha around me, and the idea of looking at everything as a gift, no matter how you feel about it. And the gift that I have some anxiety over is my trans granddaughter's going to have an immense facial surgery.
Oh.
And this seems to be something that's very important to her. And, you know, she's talked with her parents and looks like she's going to go ahead with it. And my daughter was just visiting last week, which was wonderful. But then when she told us about it, I just sort of, I just was kind of like, ah. And then I just kept thinking about how her life is so different from my life. Not only because we're of different generations, but this change for her, because she was sort of born into the wrong body, she feels. I have to work very hard to find the appreciation of these things.
And I feel a lot of,
what's your deepest hope for her, Sue?
I just want her to be safe.
Okay.
And so I think about her, and I think this can help make her safe or safer.
That's what she has in mind. And
I think she has that in mind. And so the idea of just fully examining things, and this is kind of fresh and in this state now rather than an examined state. But, you know, then this vow said, well, the Dharma gates are always open and you can choose to step through or not. But
what's your grandmother vow?
What?
What's the center of your vow as a grandmother?
Well, the center of my vow is just a deep love.
So to stay in that place of love, and your deepest aspiration for her is to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep coming back to those two things. What helps me stay in the love, what tosses me off, what brings me back, you know, and keep offering that love in support of her safety, even if it doesn't look like what you think it might look like.
Well, it doesn't make any difference what I think about all this.
Except the way you think about it could get in the way of your deepest aspiration for her or your vow.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
And that's the part you can practice, no matter what she chooses. That's what I'm bringing you back to. And now you've said this in public, so there's a whole bunch of people all over the world who are going to be thinking wonderful thoughts about you and your granddaughter.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
If you
that's
look at the screen, you'll see their faces.
part of.
Now they know.
Yeah. And I'm grateful that they do.
Good.
And I'm grateful that my granddaughter has this opportunity if she chooses to.
Yes, yes. And may it go well.
And may it go well. Thank you.
Although I did invite Catherine Ellis to speak, I think last time. I wonder if Catherine is here and might raise her hand just for a second. There, thank you, Catherine, for your willingness. This is, you're getting ready for your ceremony too. But so you're the person who asked me to read the Bodhisattva vow that way many years ago in Switzerland.
Oh.
I don't know if you remember.
I hadn't remembered.
You were
But
the prompt.
I thought it was a lovely idea, because simplicity of expression is always very touching.
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge that because I remember sitting in that circle, and at that point, it was a long time ago, and you had a reaction to it like you would scripture. But then it opened, and you taught me something in doing it that way that's now carried forward. And I wanted to thank you for that.
I'm very touched.
And look where you've ended up too.
I also want to say I was just hugely touched by Sue. Thank you, Sue.
Mm-hmm.
That simple generosity towards a member of the family just
So
she's
touches your
so
deepest aspiration.
so lucky to have you as a grandmother, Sue.
Mm-hmm.
You're such a gift to her.
Absolutely. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Flint.
And we have a few more moments if someone else would like to raise their hand and come forward.
Hello,
There you
Flint.
are. So warm and golden.
During lockdown, the supermarket has been a kind of a zendo for me, because it has its particular form, during this time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of waiting, there's a lot of walking, a lot of pausing, and
How to enter.
and I've been aware when I go up to the cashier, how sometimes I kind of relegate moments as less important than others,
Mm-hmm.
and realizing that each moment that I'm standing there is part of my life, and that it's all of time. The vegetables are going along the conveyor belt, and the cashier is there, and there's something about what you were sharing today which kind of underline that the an awakened moment is anywhere it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be just in meeting the eyes of a cashier and kind of appreciating filling up your bag, um, and I found the supermarket practice really grounding and helpful. Appreciate
Absolutely.
the full shelves and the fact that people, they're just doing their best to keep it going.
Mm-hmm. Appreciating the often a young woman who stands in front in our little town with the spray bottle, and you have to put your hands out so they can be sprayed with the disinfectant before you go in. And it's as if it's a bow and it's an offering and it's a receiving of something that saves our life. But that's practice as we meet and we bow and we receive, because this was what saves our life. And it may be the most ordinary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it opens up into something very spacious and beautiful.
If we wake up and look that way, which is the beginning of the vow. When I, student of the way, look at the real form of the universe, all can be never. It's the marvelous revelation of moving vegetables, of a cashier's eye. But it sounds funny, but you're saying it because it's really true. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for today, and also for the opportunity to value each moment, or to at least turn towards each moment with the possibility of valuing it equally with everything else.
With everything else, continue to choose it. There's so much more. There's so much more. And not as in a lot, it's the deeper, more. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's lovely to see both of you, as always. So I think we have just a moment or two. So let's move toward our 4 practice principles and do that chant together, as we remember that when we are caught up in our habit patterns, we tend to create the repetition of the everyday suffering. But when we can see what's ordinary and see the extraordinary in it, as Josh was just talking about it, we break our grasp of the self-centered dream so that it stops the cycle. So each moment, just as life is presented, becomes the teacher. So we can rest in the compassion that's available to us and waiting for us right here. So, caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Thank you for coming. Thank you for those who raised their hands. Thank you for all of your practices and for your support. Take good care.
Thank you so much, Flint. Appamada's programs and facilities are supported through your generosity. Your support makes a huge difference. There is a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org/contribute, and I'll put that in the chat for you as well, that address. Thank you so much, everybody. We now move on to the next part of our evening, which is where we meet on the virtual porch for a further 30 minutes with myself and others. I hope you can join us there. You're all invited. You're all very welcome. But thank you again, everybody, for joining us and creating this wonderful space. Thank you so much.